Welcome to Overeducated and Underemployed. I'm Feddun. I am here with my interview with Levi Crumley. I really enjoyed talking to this guy. He runs a lot of shows up in Athens, Georgia, including a comedy competition that I've been in before. We talk about it in the episode. He is super gracious. We probably had the most intimate conversation that I've had with anybody thus so far on this podcast. And I just want to say thank you to Levi for really opening up for this episode and sharing his story with us. I think he has a really good mindset for how to live his life with all of the hardships that he's faced at times and all the blessings that he has now. He's got a really good balance, and he's a really talented guy, and also just a really interesting person to talk to. I really enjoyed talking to him. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Here we go with Levi Crumley. All right, I'm here with Levi Crumley. He is a comedian, and I'll let him tell you more about what else he does. He's actually the first guest on here that don't really have much of a history or a rapport with. I'm really interested to learn a lot about the Athens comedy scene and his path into comedy. And I'm just going to start with the question I've been asking everybody. First of all, I think all comedians are like wannabe rock stars anyway. So I think this question applies to comedians just as much as it does musicians. But what is your first memory of a song that you love? And what song was it?
A song that I love.
Like the first song that you remember loving.
Oh man. They used to play, my Uncle Ted and a lot of guys in my family were in like a bluegrass band, and my Uncle Ted especially would play this song called If My Nose Was Running Money. It's a really funny song, but it's like clever. It's like if my nose was running money, I'd blow it all on you. Like it's got these like very funny like lines and stuff. And it was one of the first times that like I'd heard music and stuff. My dad was a big AC/DC guy, but I'd never really heard music that just kind of made me smile.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me. And I remember just like trying to learn that on like banjo and stuff as a little kid, and, like trying to play along with it. And I fell in love with it. And then other bluegrass songs, like there are a lot of gospel stuff. Like, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? Was
that's a classic.
That was, like, the first time I heard that song, I cried.
Yeah.
Being a little kid, like crying from a song.
I think the last time I heard that song, I cried.
It's a good funeral song.
That's where it was at a memorial. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
you called it.
That's On Command. That's like Time of Your Life by Green Day at like a graduation. Some people, like, you're gonna get a couple criers in it.
Oh man. So about how old were you when you like first remember that song, do you think?
4 or 5.
Okay.
Maybe.
Cool,
Yeah, I was super young. They would play. My uncle Bobby lived across the road from us. We were dirt poor. Uncle Bobby was really wealthy. He owned a construction company that my dad and a lot of other guys in the family worked for. And they had this big mansion across the road that my dad helped build. And he had the stage out there, and they would have music and have crawfish boils and stuff. And one of the only just like really low like acoustic song, just guitar, just banjo company, was that song. And I was like just a little kid. Like I remember standing there barefoot on gravel, just watching like my Uncle Ted and like smiling, not even worried about my feet hurting on the gravel. And it was like a big deal for me. I was 4 or 5 maybe though. I was really young.
So here's a similar question, but you're actually the first comedian that I've had on here yet. This is the first batch of episodes.
Okay. Cool.
What's your first memory of a comedy bit or maybe a sitcom or something? But mine was like a sketch. So yeah. But really anything like the first thing that you really remember just like really cracking you up that wasn't a person that you knew, something you saw on TV or a movie or.
I think mine was like cartoons early on.
Yeah.
I really noticed like jokes in cartoons, like Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry is very much set up punchline. It was like, okay, he draws the circle on here, makes it look like a tunnel, and then the punchline is him actually running into it himself or whatever. And it was like always then you would have the misdirection stuff with that and everything. And I just remember thinking that was really interesting. And being a little kid and like wanting to do funny stuff like that, not really knowing how, but like just having that desire to be silly and funny.
Yeah, it sounds like you really were able to recognize instead of you just finding it funny,
Yeah.
it's almost like you were able to recognize what made it funny in a way.
It was like, I think there was like a narcissism that every comedian has for sure, but there was in me early on like a desire to be like the center of attention. And I remember like sitting there watching people, like when I would watch TV, I would watch other people watch TV, and I'd be like, why do they like this? Why do I like this? And I would go, okay, well, how do I develop that? Like, how do I build that skill up? And then I would hear like jokes and stuff, and I would try to write my own ones early on, or repeat jokes I heard. And it was always like I always found laughter was like the quickest way to get people's like attention and to like really hold it,
Yeah.
because it was like, I don't know, there's just nothing. Even today, like when you're just holding court with like, a group of people, you're like, a comedy show is great, but when you're hanging out with comics after the show and you're all standing around and you're the one making everybody laugh and dude, that's the best feeling. That's better than killing, I think.
I agree. And also watching one of your friends who's a comedian bomb.
Oh yeah,
That might be better than
that's
killing
incredible.
too.
Yeah.
That might be better than killing too. That's like one of my favorite things.
Dude,
but see, I figured like at least when I bomb, I'm making somebody laugh.
The best comparison I can do, I love what, like, when I bomb, I don't always take it well because I'm kind of a perfectionist and I like, when I've got a kid, so I'm out and about, I'm like, I really want to make it worth it. So if I bomb, it's either the crowd was like, whatever, and everybody bombed and it was just a bad show. That happens, but if I bomb and other people do well, I take it very personally. And that's a tough thing to be because I love watching other people bomb because I'm like, oh God. Like I just know the feeling so well.
Yeah.
The only like comparison I can have is when I was playing high school football, a buddy of mine tore his ACL, and then the next month or two, one of our best friends also tore his ACL.
Oh no.
And they went through it together, and they were just like so close because of that.
Yeah.
And being a comic, you just have that with other comedians. Like it's just that pain of doing a show in front of two people and like getting heckled by both of them.
Yeah,
getting
for sure.
food or whatever it is, bombing and like just putting yourself out there. There's like a certain scar tissue that every comedian, if they've been doing it long enough, really has.
Yeah.
And because it is so hard that I've seen, I mean, we've all seen like an open mic where every open mic there's like somebody doing it for the first time, and then you never see them again. Sometimes they stick, and that's wonderful. Like I've seen so many comics in Athens first times doing comedy, and now they're like they love it. They do it all the time, and it's great. Some are really good at it. But then I've seen so many people where they get up there because they see other people do well and they, oh, this is fun, and they try it and it's just too hard.
So was stand up the first thing that you tried comedy wise, or did you do something like writing or improv or anything like that first?
So I did throughout high school. I did a lot of outside the box stuff. Like I didn't do drama because there was a lot of homophobia in our school and like where I grew up and stuff. And it's like if you just said that you were going to try out for a play or something, you would get like you would get like homophobic slurs written on your car or whatever.
That's wild.
Really.
And where did you grow up? Let's call that place out real quick.
I grew up out in Madison County around Isla, Georgia, which is it's not far from Athens, 20 minutes outside of Athens, but it's just so rural. It's like 400 or 500 people, and
this was a while.
Yeah, this was early 2000s.
Right.
So
yeah,
there's been progression.
Yeah. You'd like to think that things aren't.
The internet, just in general, if you think of it that way. I didn't have internet in my house until I was a teenager. A lot of people in the South, like in the town I grew up, nobody really had the internet. So it's like you only knew the people that you knew.
Yeah.
So it's like you didn't know a gay person or a black person. You just heard they were a certain way, and a lot of people assumed that. So as people got the internet and like actually knew more people and everything, you saw a lot of that dissipate, which I'm thankful for. Not with everybody, because some people it was just didn't matter. I mean,
yeah. There's gonna be. Because I think with the internet, first there came like the getting to be aware and like getting to know different types of people, but then the backside of that was a lot of misinformation and propaganda, and so we've had a lot of that. I feel like the pendulum like definitely swung one way at first with the internet, like it was this really empowering, free place, and now it's I don't know.
It's like anything else. I call most issues are not issues with the thing. It's like a human issue. It's just there's people, you get people involved in it. It's eventually going to fail in some way or the other. So sometimes it's just unfortunately, that's part of why I love stand-up is it's so solo that you do a lot of it by yourself. You're your own editor, your own director, your own performer, your own writer, and it's a lot of pressure to do it that way. But as a performer, for me, it's like when I do make shows or I write things and everything, it's very rare that somebody does the performance the exact way I want them to, and that's not their fault. That's my fault because if I give somebody something, it has to pass through the lens of their own interpretation, and they have to find the funny in their own way. So I'm letting go of that the more I do different things. But early on, when I was in school, I would find other ways to be funny. Like I would just make people laugh in class, and I was a big class clown guy in some classes.
You get in a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah, yeah, I got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
My mom was she worked for the school system when I got older as a teenager, but I would get in a lot of trouble for they wanted me to be tested for ADD and all these different things, and my mom's pretty stark against all that stuff. But I would just get up and like, just do like jokes or bits. I was big on bits. Like I would have a callback that I would just hit over and over. Okay, what's today's joke? Oh, there would be like the teacher would be wearing a shirt that says like, Southern raised or something, and I'll make a boner joke out of it. And I would see how many times I can hit that throughout. And then every verbiage I would use would be like, this class is really hard. It would be like, just like stupid stuff like that. And just a lot of times it was like literally trying to find just how subtle can I be funny? Because I know if I'm like, just say like boner, she'll get mad at me. How do I, it taught me a lot doing that way. And then I would find things like we had the Powder Puff football game when I was in school.
Okay.
And I just asked, I was like, hey, can I be the announcer for the football game? Because they had a guy that would go 10-yard gain, 3rd and 10, whatever. I was like, can I do that? And they're like, sure, because nobody really volunteers to do it. So I was like, a teenager, I was like 15, 16, maybe.
So they gave a teenage boy a microphone in
I
front
had a lot
of the
of
school?
confidence. I just made him seem,
That's
I just made it seem like I could do it.
that was a risky move on their part.
Well, it was also one of our coaches that was up there, and he knew like I was a funny guy and everything. And so he really gave me a chance on it. And I just was roasting the players. I was like, all right, guys, we're going to have a cleat drive because this one girl kept slipping. I was like, we're going to get a pair of cleats out here. By God. It was funny as hell. And then, I had so many people just came up to me after that. Was so funny. That was incredible. And it was just such a good feeling. And then the next year I did it, and I brought my best friend up in the booth with me, and he has a stutter. And I made fun of his stutter a lot.
Yeah.
And people loved it, but one lady got really mad.
Oh, she obviously doesn't know Donnie Senstack then.
No. Well, it's great. My buddy made fun of his own stutter all the time. It was like a bit we worked out. He knew about it. And
I didn't think that he was sitting there getting upset with you the whole game.
Yeah. It was just like, I don't know. You learn that with comedy. It's like the people that get upset are rarely the people that, like, on paper should be offended.
Or the ones that are directly affected by the thing that they're mad that you're joking about.
A to B, I make a stutter joke. It should hurt my friend's feelings. That's not my intent. My intent is to make my friend laugh and by proxy make everybody else laugh. But it doesn't hurt his feelings because he knows me and knows my intention.
But it's also, that's a way of showing acceptance of these things about people, I think, too. I never, ever want to make jokes to hurt people.
No.
That's never. Our goal is to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And if you get hurt, then we either need to make it funnier or you shouldn't be at stand-up. One of the two things is missing.
It's tough, man. I've done a lot of roast battles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We had the roast championship in Athens that I won at the beginning of the year. And it was fun for me just because I love writing jokes. That's my favorite part of it is just going, okay, I got to write a joke about Mike. How do I make this funny? What's funny about Mike? And I can really sit there and analyze it. Because rarely in comedy do you have something that's that like direct, because it's normally like you're just sitting around waiting for something. Like at this stage, you very rarely have something where you go, oh, I got to write 5 minutes on this, or I got to write jokes about this specific thing. At least that's how I write. I have to experience life, and then things are going to come to me. I can't really sit down and force it like that with my stand-up.
I'm the same way. I was just talking to Sloan Simpson this morning, and he and I were talking about the writing process, like songs and jokes. I think the process of writing them can be very similar.
Oh, sure.
For him, he really come up with the concept of what he wanted to write about and get like the core, and that would be very intentional. Sure. And then the rest would come to him around that. Yeah. And for me, it's like what you said, like the joke has to happen to me. And then I've got to sit down later and figure out how to make that into something that I can tell on stage instead of it just being a situational thing.
What I started writing music recently. I'm doing this music project that I'm working on, but I think with everything with me, I just always look for like the story and everything. If I can find a story, and that's part of why I love drive-by truckers in general. It's like so many of their songs, really, there's a story in it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do that with like music, with comedy, no matter what. I always just I feel like a reporter in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it sucks being a comedian or a musician because it feels like you never really turn your brain off because you're always like scanning the world for meaning. How do I interpret this into comedy or music? And so in some ways you're never really turned off. And I think that's why a lot of artists do substance
Right, yeah,
or drinking or whatever it is. And I'm certainly guilty of that, where it's like you have to turn your brain off because if you don't, you're just going to sit there and overanalyze everything, and you're going to try to look for meaning in things that you don't necessarily have to.
Yeah,
it can be very difficult. But when I hear like a perfect example, and I can't always turn it into anything, but like one day I was at H Mart. You know what H Mart is?
I don't actually.
So H Mart is like it's like a world market. It's like a
it's
mostly like all Asian culture. So it's like they'll have a ton of like Japanese and Korean ingredients and Thailand, all these different places, really cool places.
We have like a local place where I'm at that has it's very similar, but
so the one I go to is out in Atlanta, and it's huge, and they got all kinds of stuff, and everybody that works there is so sweet, and it's great. They have a food court, and the food court has amazing food. They have different restaurants. They have like a Korean barbecue spot, a Szechuan spot, like standard Chinese type place, and then they'll have like a hibachi and a lot of different things. They'll have like more authentic stuff too, and all these different restaurants, they're like all independently owned.
Okay.
And then like you're just walking around in there, and they have all these like things saying like, hey, make sure you put your tray back to the restaurant that you bought your food from. Everywhere. And I'm just like, there's like a whole war going on. Every day somebody goes to the Korean barbecue spot and they get like a tray, and then they take that tray to the Vietnamese spot and they got to deal with it, and then he's got to walk around. I'm like, oh my God, that must be horrible. That's like their own. That should be on CNN, like how tense it must feel. Because I'm just looking around and people are like, it's like the old West. Like a guy's like washing a glass, looking around, and he's like, people are eyeballing her.
Have you ever tried to get a napkin from the place at the food court you didn't get your food from?
That's tough.
It doesn't go well.
I've done that. I've definitely got sauces from a spot after I got food from another place. Chick-fil-A has the best sriracha sauce.
Yeah. You can't taste hate, man. I don't care what people say.
I know.
Or if you can, it's delicious.
Dude, it's incredible, that sauce. So I'll get like food from a Chinese place, and I'll go there to get the sauce.
I do think they bottle that sauce. You don't
do they?
I think so. I don't. Maybe not that one. I know they bottle stuff.
I know they do the other ones. The Chick-fil-A sauce, well, that's good too. But man, that sriracha sauce for a very white company, they've got that figured out pretty good.
Cultural appropriation that's our game.
Yeah, I think must be. But no, I was doing that. I also would do stuff like they had like the news at school, and I would just go in there and hey, can I do something? And if I said it confidently enough, usually they would let me. And then
you just act like you belong somewhere, and people think you belong there.
And then I would give them credit. So I was like, hey, I did the Powerpuff game. And then they would go, oh, I heard about that. It was like early comedy, like where now that's all I do. I go, hey, I got this going on. And then people, they sometimes they book you on stuff. And it's like all based off your whatever you've done or whatever.
Do you ever bring up the Powerpuff game now? Like, you ever use that as a credit?
I want to do it on stage sometime. It's just tough.
I feel like you should put it as your top credit on everything that you send out, and people can be like, what is that? Yeah, I think, I don't know, man. I'm sold. So I want to back up. So I got a little bit more information here in what you were just saying. So I want to back up a little bit. When did you realize that you wanted to play music too? It sounds like very young, right? Like you were trying to.
First thing, I wanted to do music ever since I was, I don't know, since I could walk. Like I thought musicians were the coolest people. I thought they were the most honest people.
Do you still consider yourself to be pursuing that like you do comedy? Okay.
Yeah, I keep it very separate because my music, I'm doing it in a weird way. Like I'm using a different name for it and everything, but I'm doing like different projects where the one I'm working on currently, and I'm rounding finding out is it's all banjo music and it's all childhood trauma. It's a lot of stories and different things from when I was a kid and some really sad stuff. But the banjo kind of lightens it up a little bit, and it's got like a different sound to it, and it's got some like emo strumming and stuff too, because I like that type of music. And I'm keeping it separate because I know a lot of comedians that also play music. They'll play music on stage, and it's wonderful, and that's
Right.
great. That doesn't really fit my style of playing as well. And I don't want to like undercut any of the songs that I have that are very sad and emotional. I feel like the more you do musical comedy, the less they'll take your other music seriously.
It's hard to take if Weird Al were to write like a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
It would be really hard to take it super. Even
Yeah.
some of his hilarious. No, the reverse though can kind of work
It can, yeah.
because he's got. I think of "You Don't Love Me Anymore."
Yeah.
That song
yeah,
is
that
both
yeah.
hilarious and sad.
Oh, dude. Even guys like Stephen Lynch,
Yeah.
he's got some songs that are pretty sad, and I can hear
Right.
him write like some really sad ballads. Who's it? John LaChoy, the guy that did the "Show Me Your Genitals," "Guns Don't Kill People."
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was pretty funny. He did those on YouTube, but he was on that show, The League. He was
Yeah.
He has a music project called Wolfie's Fine.
I just watched him on. He was on. I think maybe it was Neil Brennan's podcast.
Yeah, dude, he's really funny, but his music is really good. He's got one song in particular about when Hulk Hogan beat Andre the Giant, and it's a very emotional song. But it's I can't make music like that at this level, so I'm like really keeping things simple. But I do everything very grassroots. Like I think that's the only way to build things. Like my Instagram is a perfect example. I didn't have Instagram my whole life until I started comedy. I was like, that's the only way to do comedy at this point is to have Instagram. I didn't see a way around it. But I'm very particular about what I put on there. But it's all self-built. Like nothing's bought, nothing's anything. So I've only been at it for about 2 years, a little under 2 years, and I'm getting close to 1,000 followers now, and it's to a lot of people that's not a lot, and it isn't, but it's like for 2 years, and I can say these are all from comedy. None of it is friends or family. None of the people on there.
I don't think I follow you on Instagram.
No, it's like I don't ask people to. I just go if people want to, they can. I don't mention my Instagram much unless somebody just goes, "How can I follow your comedy?" That's the thing I mentioned. But it's just a perfect showcase of it started at 0 and it just grew to what it is now.
Organically.
The same thing with all my shows and stuff. I got some shows that are getting pretty big now, and they started so small with just like an idea. And I think that's that's my favorite thing is like when you just have that idea and you go, oh, that could be a joke, that could be a song, and then you just know it's going to be good.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when that happens, it's such a great feeling. Like I got a joke I have now that I'm doing in my act that it kills every time I do it. And it's just, I have so few jokes like that.
It's so satisfying. And like, usually those jokes are going to kill before you ever even tell them the first time. Like, you're just like, no.
Oh my God, this is going to get them.
Because it makes you laugh. Like, you can't even get it out.
I know, like, it's one of those jokes where I'm just like, I know. And I can milk it. Like, I know I can, if I want to make it longer, I can. And and there's one part in particular, it's like part act out, but it's a line in it, and I just know that it's like the big pop. I'm building up to that, and when that happens, I just get this big smile. I can't help it.
You're like, I have this running theory. I mentioned it briefly earlier, like a joke, a theory that like all comedians are wannabe rock stars. I also think like a lot of maybe not all, but a lot of rock stars want to be comedians. Especially ones that write like those funny one-liners into their songs and stuff like that. But I also my whole life noticed that like they all like comedians and musicians always hang out together.
Yeah.
And even though you're keeping these two things pretty separate, they come from the same fire.
For sure. Yeah.
And they're both different ways of processing trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's pretty rare. I think it happens. Like I was at a little like panel with BJ Barham a couple weeks back from American Aquarium, and he was talking about how he had like, the perfect model family, and that's and that's rare, right? Yeah. Like for somebody to be like, I don't want to say all art comes from pain because I don't think that's true, but I think that the desire to like look at the world a little bit differently, in the way that comedians and musicians tend to. does have to come from pain. Like maybe not the actual art, but the perspective.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you can pinpoint that you'd be willing to talk about that you think put that fire in you?
Yeah.
You can get as personal as you want, or I don't want to. I
Yeah.
don't want
I've definitely had a lot of it. I think my music in particular is a way for me to make sense out of pain that I felt. That when I was a kid, I couldn't even make sense of it. So I
to.
just wouldn't. I started drinking very young. I started drinking when I was 6 years old,
Oh wow.
and I drank very consistently. It wasn't like I drank one time and I put it down. I just drank the whole time I was a kid, and I hid it very well because I think people just thought I wasn't developing well. And me and my mother had a really tough relationship, so we wouldn't be very close, and she wasn't very approving of me, and that always drove me to want to get that approval. So it was always like, how do I make everybody laugh? How do I get their attention?
Yeah, yeah.
And that definitely drove me where I was like, I want to be more than what I am right now. I grew up, like I said, very poor, very really small house that we didn't move anywhere when I was a kid. We just had that one house, and its electricity didn't work in a lot of it. We didn't have a washer and dryer for most of my childhood. We washed up in the creek and we dried on clothespins.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we'd have to go to the laundromat after my dad passed when I was 14. And seeing him die, he was, the last couple of years of his life, he was very immobile. He had lung cancer and he couldn't move around a lot without getting out of breath. So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
seeing him not be the personality that he was, because he was a wild guy at times. He got arrested at one point for trying to jump cars on the highway on his dirt bike. He was a partier. He was a big drinker, alcoholic like I am. And
Sounds like an adrenaline junkie, maybe.
yeah, I think so. And he loved AC/DC. He was loved that rock and roll. Didn't really like country music that much, and it drove me away from country music for a long time. But
I have a similar experience with my dad.
yeah, it was just like he was so cool, man, and people loved my dad. My dad was so funny. He was the funniest guy I've ever met in my life,
Yeah.
and it was like he was so witty and like fast, and I have that, and
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
and I don't have a lot of stuff from my dad. He didn't own a lot, and
Yeah.
he we had a lot of stuff stolen as well from his brother, and that we didn't get back. And I drove his truck for a while after he passed away, and then I totaled it. I flipped it when I was a dumb high school kid driving home after a football game. I tell the story in my comedy, and it's just I want to keep his memory alive sometimes. And my daughter didn't get to meet my dad, obviously. My daughter's
Mhm.
4 years old, she'll be 5 in May, and she didn't get to meet my dad, but a way that I know he would interact with her would be by making her laugh, because he loved that. He loved making kids laugh, like just the silliest, stupidest, whatever he had to do to get a kid to smile.
Patch Adams style.
Yeah, basically. And then with the older you got, the comedy really matured. Like he knew, like when I was 14 when he died, and he was really going through it, but he would still find ways to like make us laugh, and he knew like I got a dark sense of humor already because I'd already been through a lot, and he would find like a dark way to make me laugh that he wouldn't do with anybody, and it was like this playing to the audience even when there's only like 2 or 3 people, and he would have been a great comic. He would have been incredible. So anyway, so I definitely took a lot from that when he passed away, because now when I think about my daughter, like I said, she's about to be 5 years old. So she's about to be 5, and in my head, because my dad died when I was 14, I think I only have like 10 years left. I think everything I do, I'm rushed. Like I have to make it work. I started comedy late. I was 27. So everything I do, I think, okay, I got to make all this work. She's only got this amount of time. And it's not about like a success thing, about like having a Netflix special or having a show on that's 1 million subscribers or any of that stuff. Like that really doesn't matter, because I know myself well enough to know that none of that stuff's really gonna make me happy. What's gonna make me happy is if my daughter Nova grows up saying that she can do that,
Right.
because she has
Right.
all the potential in the world. And I know that if I nourish that at a young age the way I didn't get it, she can do so many wonderful things, not just for herself, but for other people. And so when I do comedy and music, a lot of times I do it in that scope of like, how do I make this? And that feels very weird sometimes with my comedy, because a lot of it is, I have a joke about gas station urine and like pissing on people and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
it's like it feels weird to also say I'm a dad and I have to be responsible and I do all these things, but it is like a form of expression. And like I don't tell her she can't say bad words. I just tell them she shouldn't because. So it's like she has a very potty sense of humor right now. She's 4, so she thinks like pee is really funny. Like she would say,
I still think pee is
I
pretty
think it's
hilarious.
funny too. She thinks farts and stuff are really funny, which I think are funny. But
Objectively,
yeah, she's very into that stuff right now, and it's hilarious. But it's like, I don't tell her not to do that stuff. When I was a kid, it was like very frowned upon. Like I was very ashamed for stuff like that. So I just tell her like, hey, just to let you know, some people may not like this sort of thing, but you get to decide.
So, first of all, thank you for sharing all of that.
Oh yeah.
That I know it's not the easiest thing to talk about sometimes, and I really appreciate you opening up. But you really actually made me think about something that you said earlier too, when you were talking about people that get offended at a comedy show.
Yeah.
And it made me realize, like, the people that are getting offended at comedy shows are getting offended because they've never had to deal with it. It's a privilege.
Yeah.
It's like it's the trauma or whatever might be. It's the people that are directly affected by it aren't usually the ones getting offended, because the ones getting offended are the ones that have never really had to deal with it.
Yeah, Athens is tough because it's a college town and people are very socially conscious, socially aware, and usually that's a wonderful thing for us as far as like change, like socially and like how people treat each other. That can be good.
Comedy's a different world.
Yeah, and it is, and it's a world that exists to mock and find the folly in things and figure out what's weird about this and if you're not willing to do that, you're not willing to like find out what's wrong or what's amiss with this and try to find it. It can be tough to make college kids laugh when you just approach things. If you just talk about race at all, it can just be like even the most basic of whatever. The second you mention a different ethnicity, it can be the most positive thing in the world. A lot of them will just instantly turn where it's, what do you say? And then you can see the difference in like how they look at you. If you look at crowds enough, like you can see, oh, he's looking at me with the intent of laughing because he's smiling. I can tell his body language. I worked in sales for a long time. I'm big on body language. So I'm looking at audiences. I'm looking around, and we don't have the biggest scene, so we'll have 30 people. There's a pretty good show for us. I'm looking around. I can get a pretty good gauge of how it's going just by looking at people while other people are on stage. And I can say, oh, that girl is like perked up. She is like keyed in. She's listening to every word, trying to figure out like why she should be offended, what's messed up about it. And at no point in her process is she passing through that filter that says, oh, this person is on stage because they're trying to be funny. They're a comedian. They're not doing a TED talk. They're not doing a speech. But there is a lot of a responsibility on the performer to handle that satire, whatever they're trying to accomplish, with a lot of care and not just get up there and just say slurs the whole time.
Of course. So like I'm reminded of Jerry Seinfeld has this like scale of the more offensive a joke is, the funnier it has to be.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing because 9/11 joke's a perfect example of everybody has a 9/11 joke, I think, at some point, especially if you're a comic that was alive during that time.
Now I need to go write a 9/11 joke. I feel left out.
Dude, I don't know how many open mics I've been to where it's like
I have church shooting jokes.
Dude, yeah. I've got one 9/11 joke that I do that's about when it happened. It was just a story about me because I got suspended from school that day. And it was just, I've forgotten all about it the other day. I was thinking about it. It's like the fact that my parents were upset about 9/11 and I didn't know 9/11 happened. And I got home, I thought they were upset with me for getting suspended. And so I was like relieved when I found out what happened.
That's awesome.
I was like, oh, 3,000 people died. Oh, that's not, I thought it was going to be a pretty good day, actually.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, but it's like finding like what's unique or different about your joke. If you're just like your joke is just 9/11 was an inside job and there's not like a lot of extras on it or anything. Right. It's just finding out like that's a perfect example. That's a story like that's unique to me, and I think for me it's always finding the story in it. Not all my jokes are stories, but a lot of the one-liners and stuff. It was like an experience I had. Right. So, okay, that's like a quick thing.
Yeah, you have to. I think you have to have experienced it for it to be distilled into a one-liner, unless it's just, even if it's just like a thought you had because of an experience you were having. I'm reminded of times when you come up with a one-liner, like in a friend group situation, just shooting the shit. How do you, when that happens and it's really good, but you can't figure out how to get it into a bit? What do you do? Like, how quickly do you give up on that?
I don't. I find a way to make it work somehow, because I have a show that I just recently started. It's called the Pot Roast. It's a very outside the box show where it's the comedians, essentially they write 5 roast jokes about themselves, and then they're gonna put their roast jokes in a pot, and that goes into an envelope, and then the host draws the names out, so they don't know what order they're going in. He draws that comic up. They do 10 minutes of their material. They sit down, draws another comic out. They do 10 minutes, and then those 2 comics swap their roast jokes. So now, like, I wrote 5 roast jokes about me, you wrote them about you. We swapped, so now you're doing jokes I wrote about myself.
That's amazing.
So a lot of times they're going to be a lot deeper, a lot meaner.
Yeah.
But it gives the audience permission to laugh because it's like you wrote it. Like, so it's like a different, and like it's very fresh and unique, and I think people will really like that, and the people I've seen have really loved it.
I love the idea. That's great.
But with that show, I had the idea of, okay, this is going to be cool, but it's also very different. So let's find ways to do a lot of silliness in between. So I have these things called ad breaks, where it's like a minute and a half of improvise whatever. I have one where it's just called WWE, where it's like me and another guy will pretend like we're doing wrestling promos, but we're talking about food that we're gonna eat. It's like we get really into it, like Ric Flair style, and it's like talking about like the diarrhea that you're gonna get, it's like the defeat. And it's like finding some funny ways, but it's like now like,
it's the second time Ric Flair's come up on the podcast already.
But it's great finding ways. So now it's like, if this doesn't work for my stand-up, it might work for like an ad break or like an improv thing or a roast joke. There's a lot of different ways. You'll just have those a lot. I'm constantly trying to make my friends laugh. Like I have one of my best friends is Liv Taylor. She's a great comedian in Athens. She's very open about this, and she's gone through a ton of stuff. But her husband tragically passed away not long ago, and she talks about it on stage, and we've talked about it a lot. Like we both had very hard lives. And she's a perfect example of somebody who's been through so much that she doesn't get offended by anything.
Yeah.
Like, we've all written jokes about her husband or her mom that passed away, like, right before she started comedy, and she loves it. Like, she laughs at the pain. She really, like, heals from it.
And there is a difference when you're writing jokes about a comedian, though, too, right? Because, like that's always different.
Yeah, it is. But with her, it's like, one night we were outside of an open mic, me and her and some other comics, we were standing around, and she was saying something about one of her exes or something. I was like, oh, it's funny. Everybody you dated is either an ex or a cross. And I was like, dude, it killed her. And then everybody else kind of looks at her, and then when she's laughing, they all laugh. And I was like, that's like a perfect, like, witty. So it's like, I don't know if I'll ever use that, but I keep it in my head. I keep that H-Mart thing in my head.
You just kind of used it.
Exactly. It's like perfect. I think about that. Like, you can use things in a variety of ways. I've also had stuff like, I wrote a sad song one time because I was trying to write a joke about when I was a kid, I learned how to do a trick on a skateboard. I learned how to do a heel flip, and my best friend got really jealous because he couldn't figure it out, so he just broke my skateboard. I was like,
wow.
My first thought was like, I was just thinking about it because I used to drink a lot, and I'll just have memories come back to me sometimes. I was like, just thinking about it because I was looking at a skateboard with my daughter, and I just had that memory. I was like, that's hilarious, but maybe it's like deeper than that. So now I have a song that's all about, it's about jealousy and just becoming like what you inevitably want to be. And one of the lines is, my best friend broke my skateboard because he was jealous of a new trick that I learned. And it has a rhyme that goes with it, but it just became more powerful thinking it through that lens of people just are so jealous that they will literally destroy any way that they can to like make you the same as them. Like, you know about blue crabs? Have you ever heard that? So blue crabs, you get them in a bucket. One of them starts crawling out, they just start pulling them back down. Dude, comedy is the perfect example of that. But I think that's not a comedy problem; it's a human problem. Because I had that in sales, I had that in church when I was involved in the church, in school. It really doesn't matter. It's just people see success, especially early success, and they just instantly hate you for it.
Well, that really leads nicely into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was you've done a lot to lift up other comics in this scene. And first of all, just to back up a little bit, are you like competitive in nature or?
Yeah, I am. Embarrassingly.
Yeah.
That's part of why, like, a lot of my shows, I have to be careful to not make them very competitive. Because, like, Tournament of Topics is a competition, but I try to make it very, like, fun and lighthearted and low stakes. And we're not making fun of each other the whole time. It's a little bit. I, so it's even though it's a competition, I didn't want it to be one of the shows where most comedy competitions I've been involved with, it's one person leaves feeling great and everybody else feels like shit.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they didn't like my jokes. They thought that guy was better. Maybe I should quit. You'll have people leaving thinking they should quit comedy. It's like, dude, there was 5 people there and they were all that guy's friend.
Yeah.
There's just so much of that going on, but comics don't really be honest with themselves sometimes when it comes to like bombing or not winning. So when I did that show, like part of the whole thing that I love is when comics do it and they tell me they had a great time, they want to do it again. I don't pay anybody anything on the show. I can't afford to pay. It's 20 comics total.
Yeah.
I just can't afford to pay everybody, and we don't make a ton of money, and we charge.
Well, and I had a blast.
And that's
I
like
had a blast,
that's
and
the great thing.
I was also out in the first round, but I felt good about my performance still. You know what I mean? So it's just like you said, like the only reason I was like disappointed to be out was not because I didn't win, but because I didn't get to go up again. Because I had fun doing it.
Keep doing it.
Yeah,
that's what, to me, that's like the only way to sustainably run a comedy show. I had a big beef with a comedy show one time. I won't talk about it much, but it was like the whole problem I had was the way that they treated people that were on the show. Not just me, but you couldn't get the people's names, not just at the show, but also on the flyer. Then I asked people about it and they didn't change it. And that's fine, whatever, okay. But then at the show, like I would try to make it a habit of getting people's information. Because in comedy, that's like the whole thing you have is your identity. Like that's how people find out about you. That's most people are very honest about themselves on stage, and if you can't even get their name right, it makes it very difficult. So when I bring people on stage, I try to do it with a lot of love, really pump them up, and it does wonders not just for the comic and seeing their confidence rise, feel good. Oh, I actually feel appreciated at the show, but it makes the show better because the crowd doesn't know. They don't. If it's not Matt Rife or Tom Segura or Nate Bargatze, whoever, they don't know the comics on stage really. So if you just tell them this is a great comic, they're hilarious. These are not lies. Everybody's hilarious that's doing comedy. It's just maybe they are that night, maybe they're not. But if you empower them and you really boost them up, it does wonders because now the audience's expectations are like they're really ready to laugh. They go, oh, this is going to be a great show.
And there's definitely we've all had those shows where we go out there and we're just trying to get through our time, right? Yeah. And the audience can tell that more than we can.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think the other thing though is like how personally do you avoid being overly competitive while at the same time I feel like you've put on all these different shows in Athens, and if you want to like list some of the things that you've done in the last
so I've
few
done
years.
So for me, like my competitive fire, it does drive me a lot because this is a horrible way to think of it, and I've been told and researched how bad this is, but I think of it in terms of who's the best comedian tonight, who's the best comic on the show, who's going to have the best set, and I know that a lot of that's uncontrollable, but it does make me really focus. So like early on in my comedy, I used notes a lot. I was like, I couldn't remember my jokes. I had a lot of stage fright. I had drinking problems. I couldn't go on stage unless I was drunk. And then I had so many nerves where I just had to use my notes. Now I'm like, one of my commitments, if it's a book show, no notes ever. I can't. I cut myself off. I got to know these jokes. So the only way I found to be able to make that happen was I got to remember whatever the time is, I got to have like another 3 or 4 minutes memorized. I got to have all that. And then I'll know my beats, I'll know my transitions, I'll know how to get to stuff. And then, because you never know, you do a show, sometimes you're killing, they don't let you keep going. So if I got some extra time prepared, it really can make your night.
Or you might have on the same note, you might have a longer bit at some point that you're like, this is not working, let me get through it. And then, because maybe the next one will work.
Yeah.
And if you can get through the one that's not working and still put a nice little bow on it and move on.
So my competitiveness, like I just wrote a lot. I was like always, a lot of comics, like the whole thing is how do I build the perfect 5? I gotta build the perfect 5.
Right.
And then sometimes what I've seen, and this isn't relatable to everybody, but what I would see sometimes you would see a guy working on 5, and then he would just let jokes go past him all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I can't write new jokes. I'm working on my 5. I gotta get my 5 tight. And it's like, then they would never do those jokes on stage. They might write them down, maybe, but then they would just never do it because they're still always working on the same exact thing. And there's strength in that, but my worry was like if I don't keep writing and I don't keep trying these jokes, my jokes are gonna get better the more I do them.
Yeah.
I don't want to be married to this early stuff, like, and I went back and used a lot of my earlier jokes, but I was like, how do I write as much as I can? And that was a very competitive thing with me. Every time I get on stage, I want to have something new. Every time. Now I'm doing like more book shows. I'm getting paid a little bit of money to do stuff. I'm like, okay, it's got to be pretty tried and true stuff. Like I don't want to just come out there winging stuff. That's still I like it when I can do a joke a little different, add a little tag.
Well, every band can throw in like one new
Yeah,
song.
dude. You always
You
want
know?
to you want to leave stage. I always want to leave knowing something. I look at the way I used to look at football. Like we lost so many games, but I learned a lot. Every time we lose, it's like, if I bomb or a joke bombs, I can go, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Okay, well, this is a charity event, or this is a coffee shop, or maybe it was a little edgy for that. Maybe I can set it up better. With my shows and everything, I started a Tournament of Topics a little over a year ago in Athens. That's my biggest show. Started it's a the way it works is 16 comedians compete by spinning a wheel 2 at a time. They get a topic. They each get a minute to riff on that topic. 3 judges then decide who was the funniest out of those 2. It's a bracket of 16 comics, so it goes 2 by 2 until we get to the final 2. That's the championship. Whoever wins, they get a goat ring, and usually we have a cash prize as well. It's a pretty popular show. We've been doing it in Athens for a little over a year. I do it out in Marietta at the Alley stage right now as well, once a month, and possibly doing it at some other venues at some point. I've talked to a couple people recently about maybe some pretty cool opportunities there. It's a really fun show. It's very improv, but it's not improv in like the form that it's long form. What I really like about it is it's still stand up, and it's to me the whole thing is like that just that spark you get like when you come up with an idea.
I'll be honest, there's a couple of jokes I wrote on the spot that night that I've used since and worked.
Well, that's what
really
I love
well.
about these like all these different benefits from the shows. Like comics get material from that sometimes. They'll land on a topic that they've never even thought about doing a joke on, and they go, "Oh shit, I actually have something to say about this."
Yeah.
And you can get a little extra material. Also, comics will record their set, and I've got recordings of stuff too. But when comics will just have something set up, they'll record it. They can post that minute. Now they're not burning their material, and they're also not doing crowd work the entire set trying to get something that they can post.
Because that's all that they.
Yeah, I mean,
And honestly, I'm not even somebody that focuses a lot on that kind of content.
No,
because I feel like I have other avenues to pursue. And I don't want to share my stand up until I'm like putting out a special or something.
It's nice when you have something really good to share, and I post stuff sometimes less than I used to. I went through a stage there where I used to post a clip every day of my stand-up on at least my stories.
Yeah.
And I had some really good clips and stuff, and I still have them and all that. But it just, to me, it was also like I should be like I want to keep writing. It was a good way to keep me writing all the time because just wanting to make sure we only have so many mics in town. I can do stand-up 3 or 4 times a week usually.
Yeah.
But I'm writing every day, so I'll have a backlog of material a lot of times, which is frustrating. It's probably one of the hardest things about my stand-up, or most frustrating things is I honestly think I have about 4 hours of jokes, but I've probably only done 2.5 hours of them.
Gotcha.
So I've got all that stuff I've just never done. I did an hour of stand-up about 6 months into stand-up. An hour of comedy. It was mostly about my addiction to alcohol and this stay I had at a crisis center here in town, and it was all mental health and addiction stuff. It's on my YouTube. It was really fun.
I've seen it actually.
It was fun, man. It was such a small little thing, and it was so early. I was like, let me just do this, see if I can do an hour. And I was able to do that, and then I did another hour last August. A buddy of mine asked me about doing another hour. It's called Eddie's Boy. It's about my dad and parts of it, but a lot of it was just jokes I had for a while that I was really into.
Gotcha.
That was a fun one. I used to run shows at this venue where I would do stand-up shows and stuff, but I honestly feel like crowds are a little disenfranchised and a little bored with stand-up open mics and showcases.
Yeah.
At least that's the vibe I get when I go to them a lot of times, where it's just, oh, here's this comic, and then and that's just that 10 times, a lot of times.
I'm trying to I've been honestly trying to remember for 10 minutes who said this to me. And if I remember before I post this, I'll give them credit in the intro or outro. But someone was talking, oh, you know what? Pete McBriar. I don't know if you know him, but he's actually just got a bunch of mutual friends. And he used to do comedy, doesn't really do it that much anymore. He says he got bored with it. But what he said to me, and I thought about it for a week after he said it, was people go see bands and people go see comedy.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily go see a comic.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about people like Tom Segura or whatever, like Theo Vaughn, it was in my town last night, and
I saw him a few years ago in Columbus.
Man, he is like one of the dumbest, smartest comedians I've ever. Man, sometimes he is so like he's got this one joke where he's talking about like racial relations growing up, and
the tank top one where he's talking about growing up for the I think
and he's like, I don't have your stuff. I'm over here. Yeah, I didn't take your stuff. Somebody else has both of our stuff, and they're watching us fight over it. And I'm like, dude, that is exactly what's happening.
I think I would do all that shit to you and then move right next. It's hilarious.
It's amazing. It's really smart too.
For sure. Yeah.
And I don't even know if he knows how smart some of those jokes are. But I guess what I'm getting at is most of the time people just go see comedy. Unless they're going to see a Theo Vaughn or a Tom Segura or a Nate Bargatze or Mark Maron or whatever. Locally, they don't go to the comedy night because they're like, oh, I know that guy's really funny. I feel like there might be a couple of people in town that are like that.
A lot of people come to shows. They're like, oh, I saw you were on this one. It happens. I know people that have a little bit of a posse, or it's like they'll have 2 or 3 people that roll with them all the time. But not at this level. It's very rare that we couldn't just go, hey, our biggest comic in town is headlining this show, and then 100 people come. That wouldn't be realistic for us.
I feel like there's one guy, and a couple of, and this, I feel like this happens in other scenes where they might have celebrity status from other things that they do.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking of, I think there's a sports announcer here that does comedy.
Yeah.
Who's quite funny.
Yeah. There's a guy that.
I'm just not trying to call anybody out.
No, there's a guy that did. He was a social media guy for a long time. I saw his first ever stand-up set, and now he like tours and does comedy because he has like 100,000 followers or something, and that buys you a lot of. I can get in here because I have this, and nothing against the guy. His comedy is not, to me, it's not very good, and you can tell he just never really had the time to sit down and write. He didn't struggle at the open mics the way that we all do. So
I'm seeing that a lot with these like YouTube.
But it's like
comics.
How do you deal with that? For me, it's. He's going to book me on a show where I get to perform in front of a lot of people. That benefits me. It's also, it does bring attention to our scene when he does shows. And as much as I don't like bad comedy, I don't like promoting bad comedy. When bad comedy occurs and it makes your good comedy look better.
Sure.
I do an open mic in town where sometimes you'll see 5, 6 people in a row just bomb 0 laughs. And then if I get up there and have a really good set, I leave there feeling, damn, I had this shit to a degree where it's faulty, and you need to go bomb at a show where it's like it has to have that balance. But I do think there are people like that where they cross over. And T.I. is a guy that famously tried to do comedy and was awful at it, and apparently it's caused some trouble with him. But I don't know. To me, it's I want everybody to do comedy for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do it because they see it as a way to get people interested in them or other stuff they're doing.
To me, I think you should only do it if you can't do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with. I used to have this thing.
Or like can't not do it. Like compulsory.
Dude, that's my thing. It's like if I haven't done stand up in a couple of days, I start feeling it. I'm like, dude, I gotta get on stage. I gotta do it. I just feel drawn to it all the time. Mm-hmm. But I know people that like. The same thing, like before I go on stage, I'm dreading it. I'm going, oh, I'm gonna bomb. But why am I doing this?
Neil Brennan says it's like putting us through. Neil Brennan says it's like putting our bodies through a car wreck every night.
Yeah, that's probably good. That's good. But I know some people where they just look at it like, just open mic, and it's like the whole time they just dread it, and you can feel it on stage too. That's the one thing. When I used to do sales a lot, like you'd always try to have this separation. You're dealing with stress all day and trying to commission only jobs and trying to talk people into shit. You get home, you just don't want to talk.
Yeah.
But you still have to have, especially when my daughter was first born, like my wife was at home with her all day by herself. She doesn't talk to anybody. So I get home,
Right.
she wants to have some human connection, some time with an adult, and I want the exact opposite. So it's like you have to figure out like transitioning that. So like when I get on stage, I try to just leave everything else. It's not the audience's fault. Like I'll bring what I have to bring. My jokes sometimes are trauma related or related to something I'm going through, but I'm not gonna get on stage. Like right now I'm dealing with this back injury. I'm not gonna get on stage and go, oh, I don't feel good. I'm not gonna give a good performance. I'm not gonna take it out on
Right.
them. I am the one that decided to do it. Like I said, yes, I don't drop out of shows. I don't know if I've ever, maybe once I had to drop from something, but I'm very, if I agree to do something, I'm very loyal about it. I have to see it through. Because if I don't, I'm just going to feel awful about it. Like I beat myself up a lot. And my other shows, like, but that was the start of everything, was like trying to find, with my shows especially, how do I get people interested in comedy in general, like in our scene? Because when we first started doing a lot of extra shows, I started in 2023 in June. And so I'm still very new at it, but we just didn't have a lot going on in town. Like we
Yeah.
had an open mic on Sundays. Everything else was like, it was like also music. You could do a little comedy. They had poetry and music, and it was like that's tough to
Right.
do. Like a guy does Nirvana, and then you get on and you got to do
Yeah.
jokes. It's like
Yeah. Especially in a town like this that is mostly a music town anyway.
yeah,
And so you're like doing jokes right after like some of the most amazing
Mhm.
musicians, like period.
Yeah. So we would have that, and I could do those mics, and it made me better, I think. But it was like
Sure.
it
Yeah.
was those things, and then we would have decent sized shows at like Hinder Shots, but they were always booked by out of town comics. And those guys, they're not going to book me. They don't know me. They're not coming to our mics. They don't.
Right.
And that left an impression on me. So I was like, how do we just build more interest? Because then I would like, we got to start more shows. So I'd start these shows and get these rooms open, not just me, but other people. And some of the ones I started, it was like, I just struggled to get people to come out because people just didn't know about comedy really in our town. Like it's a music town and people don't, it's very much like the population recycles itself every year to a degree because people graduate and we have our townies, but most of the townies in Athens, when students are here, they ain't going out. They're going to hang because those people are fucking crazy. Like the day that school starts back, I used to work on Atlanta Highway, which is a pretty big highway out here. I would sit there and just watch 2, 3 accidents a day. Students, all of them, just guaranteed. And that was just that one chunk of road.
That's wild.
It's a completely different town when students are here. I mean, the population like triples or something. It's insane. So we try to make the most of what we can, but a lot of that was just we got to build awareness about comedy and like, we got to get people interested. And it's this thing where it's like if you do a show and there's only 5, 10 people there, it's very easy to then make the whole set or the whole show about how shitty the show is and how it's sparsely attended. And I see that every single time I go to a mic or anything where the host just they don't know what else to do. And I probably have done it recently too, and I always feel really bad about it because it's don't take it out on those people. Like they're in it with you.
Exactly.
Like, let's make them laugh. They're sticking around. But then we either have that or we'll have like mics where it's like a lot of people are in there, but they're all fucking talking, and it's you're trying to get them. And then we have a problem of we don't have a lot of like really seasoned comics that can like really handle that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like if people are talking, they don't know. The only thing that works for me, and I've learned this, I got to get bigger. I got to be louder. I got to really get their attention. I got to get them to focus on me. But what happens with our scene is a lot of our really new comics, they're doing their jokes and it's not going great. And then people are laughing. They're like talking to each other. They're not interested because it's not going great and they're not doing well. And then people will shush them and get them to be quiet. And they go, oh, okay, you're right. Yeah, and then they'll watch them and then it's still not good. And that's tough. And we have to, that's one thing I learned early on is like the more shows we do, like we have to make these shows great.
Yeah.
Because if people leave not having a good time, they're not coming back to this shit. If they didn't know about it before and their first experience was bad, the first experience is a very lasting one. So every show I do now, it's like, how do we make this fun for everybody? Like, how do we make sure? Because the thing I notice that the comics don't have a good time, the crowd is not going to have.
Right, for sure.
Comics can be miserable and be funny, but that's a choice. Like most of the comics I know, like Mark Maron, like he's a miserable guy in a lot of ways, But his comedy on stage is really him playing into that misery and talking
Yeah.
about it, and that's hilarious. But if you just have somebody go and say they're just miserable for the sake of misery,
Yeah.
like I have a tendency in my personal life to get that way. If I take that on stage, that's going to torpedo everything. So everything I do, it's a lot about keeping people's attention and momentum. I started that show, which is wall to wall. It's not many breaks, not many lulls. It's pretty consistent. I try to be quick on my feet, doing little jokes in between when we need to pick up. The judges I book are usually very funny. They do their own little thing. And the comics usually do great on that. It's 16 comics, a minute on the wheel. It's so random.
I think everybody got laughs.
I think that happens most of the shows. We've had people bomb, but the thing about it is if they bomb, it's a minute. I'll bomb for a minute. I don't care. It's a minute.
I definitely didn't bomb, and it
Yeah.
felt a minute still felt really long.
It feels good time. That's the only thing.
When you're thrown a topic without
Yeah.
like having any material, like you get the topic and then you start. There's not even a second to think about it.
It's a little tough with Kill Tony is obviously the biggest like comedy show, like podcast and everything, and they do a minute. And that was a big thing with me, especially early on, was like, okay, we've got a lot of comics going up doing a minute. And I'm like trying to separate the show from that because I don't want people just going to the show and go, oh, this is like a Kill Tony ripoff or something.
Right.
But I feel like our show is very far removed from that. And a lot of that.
Yeah, I didn't even really.
But there was talks early on in my head anyway where I was like, what if we make it like, I don't know, a minute and a half, or we make it like 30, but a minute is perfect.
It really was, yeah.
You can just, you have time to like, you don't have to be like the whole time just on the entirety of the time. Like you can take a little bit of a breath.
I did.
Here and there.
And then I think my funniest joke came after that little pause.
Yeah, you take it a little, because a lot of times people just get nervous and they just say the topic over and over. And that's just nerves.
Yeah.
One thing that taught me that I learned very early on, because I had a lot of public speaking experience. I used to, when I graduated high school, I met my wife first day of college, and then she was very religious, and I wanted to impress her and her family, and I got very religious. And I found out that religious people are very nice to you if they want something from you. Well, I was like, I would go to this church, and people would be really nice to me. I wasn't used to that, and they would like give me food and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, people are so nice, and they love me, and they would say they love me, and they would spend time with me, and really acted like they cared, and that was great. And then I got into preaching and teaching Sunday school. I would go to jails to minister, and I would do funerals and teach kids, and I was doing all kinds of stuff with the church. I was probably working 20 hours a week with the church at one point. And the thing with that though is like I would probably have like 3 hours of material I'd have to have every week. 3 hours on the book that has been like read and dissected more than anything. So I'm like, I gotta be original, man. I gotta find, because I got 3 hours. I gotta find a way to be different. And one of the ways that I struggled with early on, I would talk very fast when I got nervous. I noticed that in my stand-up and was able to fix it very quickly because it happened early on in my preaching, where I would talk very quickly because I didn't feel confident. But one of the things I noticed is that the slower you talk and the more pauses you take, the more confident you sound.
Yeah.
And it sounds so backwards because I'm thinking if I just don't say anything, they're gonna think I'm dumb as shit. They're not gonna. This guy don't even have a thought in his head. So I'm sitting there thinking, it's like and I sound like Foghorn Leghorn. And it's like I can't do that. So it really taught me the power of silence, especially in our voices.
And like learning your tells or whatever that you might call them.
Dude, the greatest thing I figured out lately with my comedy is a real breakthrough I had is like if I just take a second after my first thing I noticed early on, my first bomb I ever had, the thing I noticed was I would like, do a punchline and I would just rush past it because I didn't get a laugh instantly. But a lot of my jokes are like a little clever and it's you got to think about it a second. But
you also have to tell them when to laugh sometimes.
Sometimes you do, and I didn't know that at first. I just thought, oh, I know it, I get it, they're gonna get it. If they don't get it, I gotta move quick. Because in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I don't even want them to think that was a joke. I just want them to think it was just something. Right. Consciously, I think we think that a little bit at the beginning, but it taught me, thinking back to my preaching days, it's like if I just pause, and now I do this thing like if I do a joke that I know is good and I know it's funny, but I know everybody hasn't gotten it yet, I'll like pause, and a lot of times I'll do like facial expressions. I'll really scan and look, and I'll make a lot out of that moment.
Yeah.
Early on in stand-up, I can just say I had no control over that. I didn't know. And it's cool to have those little wins. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that every comedian needs to have is to be able to find wins. Because what happens is people get disenfranchised with it. They get bored with it.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep doing this too hard. And it is very hard. It's very unrewarding.
One of the hardest things I've ever done.
it's super unrewarding because it's like most people aren't gonna know who you are.
It's
So
almost as unrewarding as parenting. No.
it's close.
I
It's
mean,
close. But like you want, let's say you want to be famous. Like my favorite comedians aren't famous. Dave
Right.
Attell's not famous. He's
No.
famous amongst comics,
No.
but he could walk down the street, people wouldn't know who he was.
Like he can still go out to eat.
Yeah, and it's like I would love to be that level of it. That would be perfect.
Yeah,
But comedy is not a good way to get famous, I don't think, because even the people that are like Matt Rife, that's one in like a ton of people
Mhm.
that is pretty recognizable. And then if you're doing it for money, fuck, dude. I've lost so much money doing stand up. Like I've made some money, but I can't tell you how many shows I leave going, oh shit, I gotta pay this comic, I gotta pay them, I gotta do this.
Or even just as a comic, you get there and you buy a drink
Buy a
or
drink,
chicken
park, you
tenders
gotta pay
or
for parking, you
yeah,
gotta buy
yeah.
a drink,
Get an Uber
gas,
there.
or whatever. It's just always something. Like I can't. It's very hard to make money doing stand up, especially doing it in my mind a very grassroots, very like building up like confidence among the consumer type of thing, versus just paying for like a bunch of followers and let's just produce this whole thing based off of I don't know something that's not even real. But it's very difficult for those things. But I think you have to find those wins. If you can say, okay, that joke worked, that tag worked, I've got that in my tool belt, or you can say, I got booked on this and I got this little thing. Finding those little wins is so key. It keeps me like sane because I'll just sit there and focus about all the negatives and shit.
Yeah.
But then the second I go, oh, I had this happen and this, and then I go, oh shit, I'm 2 years in. I've got a lot of shit I can be thankful for. And I think it's just figuring out what those wins are for everybody because not everybody's going to have my path or your path or fucking David Hales or anybody else. It's like finding your own unique celebration.
So the last thing I really want to ask you about is something you brought up just a minute ago. How do you feel about the impact that Kill Tony has had on the craft of the field of stand-up comedy? Because obviously it's increased its popularity tremendously.
Yeah.
But I think it goes back to something we were talking about earlier, where a lot of people think they can just be offensive instead of actually writing a joke.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that with comedians locally
Yeah.
as a problem? Have you noticed that as like people trying stand up, they think they can just be offensive? Or is that not really bled into this local
It
scene?
has for sure. But I think that probably happens with every scene to a degree.
Oh,
like,
of course.
When I first started doing comedy, I was pretty edgy. I just thought,
Well,
because you think what's funny to me, and a lot of comedians are really damaged, fucked up people, and what's funny to them is sometimes really dark shit. And it's easy to just lean on. I know a lot of comedians, like, I see it more in Atlanta with like comics out there that are what I would define as like edgelords.
or yeah, that's what they want to call themselves at least.
But it's I know some of those guys, but some of them are some of the best joke writers I know. And a lot of them are some of the sweetest people I know. There's a guy in particular,
Sure.
I won't say his name, but he's one of the edgiest comedians. He made a joke the week that Lakin was killed in Athens. He made a joke about it, and it was a really dark joke. I didn't think it was funny at the time. There were people that laughed at it, and they were cool laughing at it. I'm a father of a daughter, so it hit me a little weird. I didn't take it on that. Never held it against. He's a comic doing a joke.
Yeah, of course, you're
But
right.
then that same guy, the first time I ever actually met him, he offered to let me stay in his house anytime I'm out in the area. And it's just that duality of if you know the guy, it's okay, yeah, it's a joke, whatever. He's just
Yeah, I don't think I'm talking so much about comedians that like end up being funny.
yeah,
Right. But I feel like what I'm getting
Being
at
like
is like people
yeah.
thinking that anybody can do it
Oh yeah.
because I can go be offensive.
I don't know, man. That's like anything, I think. It's a weird thing. Like, if you think about, I'm a huge football fan. Like, I wonder if there was a time when dudes like the NFL started so small, like its roots were like in cow pastures and just throwing
Right.
around a ball with like dudes wearing sweaters that also work full-time jobs and don't get paid anything really. And like, I wonder if there was a time where like all those guys were playing ball and they're like, oh, did you hear this team's getting pretty big? They're gonna start televising the games. It's like, oh, we're gonna have all these people. It's like there's always that thing of like when you have something, you want it to be yours and special. Like you want it to be exactly how you want it to be. And I think a lot of comedians are contrarians and they don't like things that are popular.
Sure. Yeah.
And I deal with that a lot. Like I just any pop song, I just instantly go, I don't like it. It might be great. I don't know. It's probably not for me, But a lot of comedians, I think, are like that. So if anything becomes more popular, like Kill Tony was a pretty small show when I first started listening to it. Small, and I mean, it was a really big show, but it wasn't like they weren't doing Madison Square Garden or anything like that. They were still
Sure.
doing, I think they were still in the belly room of the Comedy Store back
And
then.
they mostly had actual comedians
Yeah.
signing up too. Now I
Yeah.
feel, and this is where the
I
dynamic kind of
know.
is emerging, where like,
That's a big reason why I don't watch the show now.
yeah, sure,
It's because the show a lot of times is just, let's bring this guy up here. He's gonna bomb for a minute and not really do jokes. He might do one or two, and they're just not. You
yeah,
can tell he hasn't done them anywhere else before because this whole thing was, I'm gonna make my first time on Kill Tony. That to me is the dumbest fucking thing. Do not make your first time doing comedy something that you have zero control over because then you don't know. What if you don't get pulled for a year or 2 years? That could be very realistic. That happens all the time where a guy gets in there, oh, I've been signing up for 2 years. And it's like, I hope that guy's been doing comedy that whole time because now he wasted 2 years.
mm-hmm.
And sure, I bet he had a great time. But just if I'm thinking like,
I don't know. I heard the bar across the street's pretty shitty.
is it? I got my friend Liv, I talked about earlier, is moving out to Austin, and she loves Kill Tony. She loves that whole thing. I don't like just how mean spirited it is sometimes, where it's
Sure, yeah.
the whole thing is just let's make fun of all these comics and that come up, and I don't care if you make fun of a guy that, like you said, just got up there. He doesn't have a plan or nothing. Yeah,
Mhm.
sure, ridicule that guy, but you develop that culture of it's a quick way to get famous.
Yeah.
And that to me is probably the thing I like least about it, where it's just like people look at it as like a ticket. The
I mean,
second
he
he
literally
started,
calls
the
it.
second he started calling it the golden ticket, I started rolling my eyes every time because I'm like, dude, because he's convinced himself he's some sort of like geek. He's giving people all this stuff, and it's like, I don't know Tony Hinchcliffe personally. I don't know anything. He seems like a dick, but I also have never cared for his stand up. And it's
I think he's like pretty irrelevant to the show
yeah, I
in
mean,
general. Like
I
he's,
think he can write. Like his roast jokes are pretty clever sometimes.
yeah,
I
like he was great on the Tom
I
Brady
thought so
roast.
too.
That's like the only time he's
I'll
made
admit
me.
those, and
Yeah,
he's quick in the moment. Like he's quick. Like he
yeah,
can do
yeah.
some quick stuff, and
Sure.
I've been amazed by some stuff. But his material that he brings to do stand up, the fact that it's not renowned or it's not considered good by anybody that I know,
And it's a
it's like,
choice.
and it's like, why is he now the authority on what's good and what's bad? Like, it was cool when it was a small show, and it was like, yeah, he's been doing comedy for a long time. Yeah, respect that. But when you start doing this, I had the same thing with Dave Chappelle, even where it's like when he starts saying he's the goat. Okay, why? Like, why are you the goat? Because Richard Pryor died. It's just comedy. It's so I don't know.
I think I don't know that the GOAT is a title you can give yourself.
No, I think the second you do it, just makes you so dislikable. And I'm a sometimes I'll get proud of myself and I'll be really thankful for the stuff I've been able to achieve and I can brag about a little bit.
Mm.
But I always try to just like end everything I do with so what's next? Let's just
Right.
not like if I'm doing a show that is decreasing in quality, but more people are at it, to me that's a crisis.
Yeah.
Like to me that's like the worst
Yeah.
thing because now
Agreed.
people are exposed to comedy, they're exposed to a bad form of it.
Agreed.
It's
And I think you described exactly what's been happening with Kill Tony over the last
yeah.
couple of 3 years.
Comedy's just like oversaturated in a way, but it's that same thing. It's
But do you think that's why?
no,
Something like
it's not the only reason. I think people will use that as a big point to blame, and that Joe Rogan's part of that thing too.
well, he's changed a lot, man.
For
If
sure.
you think about Joe Rogan 5 years ago, even
Yeah.
he cared about weed and aliens.
I think when he signed that big deal, I don't remember all the specifics of it.
Yeah,
but
I
it was
don't. Yeah,
so huge. It was so much money, and it just I don't know. I noticed a pretty big shift in it then. That was after Trump had first gotten
I think it was like
elected.
2017. Yeah.
Something like that. So it was. I mean, there's a lot of shit has happened since then. It's just people need to understand. I think their influence in a way, but people like that's always the get out of jail free card, as they say. Well, he says he's a dumbass. He's a comic. He doesn't know, and it's okay. Then just give back all your followers. Then
So
if that was like the whole thing, it's like I don't care. Like I'm just saying you have to realize that not everybody is as smart as you are. Like I think Joe Rogan is incredibly smart.
sometimes.
I think he's selectively intelligent. Like,
Yeah.
he can play dumb, but I don't think you build what he has, and it's not all been through hard work or anything. But I think he's very smart about things. But I think he understands that, like, he has followers that don't know the difference of him being a scientist and somebody who's went to school for 20 years. They just hear, like, he's bumping elbows with these smart people. He must. So now everything that he says, they don't necessarily look at it through the same lens of, that's the fear factor guy saying that. They go, oh, this is Joe's. They look at it as like a Rush Limbaugh, who's another guy that shouldn't have been given like any credibility, but it's like even he probably has more right to talk about politics than Joe Rogan does.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree.
It's like people are always looking for somebody to follow. Like people don't like to follow organizations; they like following a person.
So I guess like my last kind of thing I'm thinking about is, have you seen Mike Birbiglia's "Thank God for Jokes"?
I don't think I've seen that one yet. I've seen all those other ones.
I highly recommend that
one. I need
one.
to watch it.
And I'm gonna just summarize a small part of it. He talks about how the guy at work says, "Nice tits, Betsy."
Yeah.
And then he says, "Oh, I'm joking." And then the boss, "No more jokes."
Yeah.
I almost wonder if we've let that guy in the office into the comedy world. And I don't know if it's one specific guy, but like the metaphorical, the golden ticket has allowed the metaphorical office dude saying "Nice tits, Betsy"
to go into the
and be like, "I'm joking."
Yeah. I think that part of the problem is all three of those people are now in the stand-up world. Versus before, you had a very niche thing where it's like people that were into stand-up were just like they had to really seek it out. Like,
right.
Now stand-up is advertised everywhere.
It's not for everybody.
No, it's not for everybody, and that's the thing.
It's probably not for most people.
It's very narrow for the amount of people that are going to like stand-up comedy because on paper it doesn't make any sense. Like it's a guy standing there. He's not informing you of anything. It's not like he's bettering you by giving you knowledge. It's not like a seminar or a speech or anything.
Yeah.
He's literally just trying to make you laugh. And you have to be relatable enough for everybody to get it, but you have to be unique enough to where it's not corny or they've heard it before. And that is such a narrow and like tight path to walk.
For sure.
Where like you see you might do a show that's got 20 comics on it. How do I make these people laugh using stuff that isn't like anything else that has been said tonight, but is still relatable to them? And that's so hard to do after so many years of stand-up comedy that now I think we're at this point where all three of those people in that office are now at the show.
Yeah.
And a lot of times all three of them signed up for the open mic. It's crazy, and it's great that comedy's getting that big. We all want to do this professionally. We all want to make money doing comedy. We all want to be able to just do this, not have to work day jobs. And this is maybe a step in the right direction, maybe a step in the wrong direction. Where it's like you got to have people involved, you got to sell tickets, you got to educate the masses, but there's just not enough good comedy for every comic to kill and every experience to be wonderful. So that lady that comes in and got offended that somebody said nice tits, and rightfully somebody shouldn't have said that. She comes to a show and then a guy does a joke about that guy saying nice tits. She doesn't see that guy making fun of it. She just hears that nice tits line again. She's not a trained comedy audience. She doesn't digest comedy, but she went to the show at the bar to have a drink. That person's there. You got the guy that fired the other dude or wrote him up. He's there. He's listening. He's getting whatever he wants out of it. You got so many people involved with it now that it's gonna be messy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that will help a lot of people if they just go, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a shit show. 90%
and I
of
think
it.
that's the one thing that Kill Tony gets right, is it knows it's a shit show.
I love that about the show. And I use that in my stuff too, where but then it's like, how do we lean into it? Do we let that derail things, or we just go, man, how fucking fun is this, man? How much? And I do love it when Tony does that, where he just goes, how great is it on Monday night?
Yeah.
When he says that, I love that.
There's something really magical about it. And there's a reason it's the most popular.
Yeah. It's that thing of Echo is going to be different. You're going to leave that night going, that was a unique experience I'll never have again. And I love that about every stand-up open mic is like that.
Yeah.
It's a less glamorized version of that.
And I love it when bands try and do that. Yes. I just had J. Roddy Walston play my living room about a month ago. Dude. And he told me like he's doing things every night that are different.
Yeah.
And first of all, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was like, that was really, reach out to him if you want to have him at home.
Yeah.
Make sure he makes money.
The Starring Boys, Dave Marr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
First time I ever saw him was at Cinex. I watched this movie, A Shot in the Dark, the Pink Panther movie. He liked it. It was like his pick or whatever. And then he and some guys played music after that. I was like blown away. I'd never seen music played in a movie theater before. And I loved his music ever since then. But it was just such a unique experience, and just going, nobody else can say, besides the people that are in this room, that they experienced this. And I love that. And it's not, I think everybody wants that experience to be Madison Square Garden, but the fault in that is that's more people that are also experiencing. Your experience is less unique by proxy.
Yeah, yeah.
If I'm at an open mic with 10 people and some shit goes down, like I was at an open mic one time, a guy with one arm sexually harassed a waitress. That's an experience not a lot of people have had.
I've only met a dude with one arm. Like, I can count on one arm how many times.
Dude, there's been so many like experiences like that where you just go, wow, I would have never had this experience if I wasn't in this room at this very moment. And I love that.
And I think that's what makes, like, because both of us have the same favorite band you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what makes them, they never play with a set list. In fact, I saw the Southern Rock Opera tour 4 times. And it was the first time I'd ever seen them play the same show more than once. And that was a new experience.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like they had never done that. And that was new. So
I love that about them too.
Yeah.
Like, you get that experience of every time you watch them, you go, this is different than the last time they played the song.
A lot of people aren't looking for that.
I know.
A lot of people watch The Office over and over.
Yeah.
A lot of people listen to what's on the radio, and they listen to the same stuff they listen to in high school or college. And I'm just going to say, stand-up isn't for everybody.
It's not.
Some people might want to just stick to Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry.
I think that's a part of our job is, I look at it in some ways as a salesperson, where I go, I got to sell these people on this. So like when I run a show, I love that movie Saturday Night.
I liked it too. I think a lot of people hated it.
I know a lot of people liked it, but
not accurate, but fun.
Next thing, if you're watching any movie I watch, it doesn't, I just automatically assume this is a movie. Right. Probably not very, I just watch it, it's an individual story.
Exactly.
But the thing I really grabbed onto is like that anxiety that Lorne Michaels' character had, where he's just running through, and it's very stylized, and the music and all that stuff. Sure. But I've felt that so many times where just, I want the show to be so good. I want it to be great.
I thought it was really strangely relatable for how inaccurate it was. You know what I mean? It was like,
yeah, and it was like the thing of, he has a line in that they wrote that says, you can't expect people to recognize what they've never seen before. That's always stood out to me, where it's, I want to do a style of comedy that people haven't necessarily seen before. Like, I want it to be unique, where it's very fresh, but there is going to be a lot of trial and error with it. And I think that's the price of being original, is that you're going to bomb more than the people that are going to do the stuff that's right down the middle. We've all been to open mics where some guy gets up there and he talks about, dude, I saw a show recently, a guy did an Obama, Bush, and Clinton impression.
Oh, God.
Shit, I've been hearing for 20 years. And I was like, oh my God, this is so hack. Audience loved it. And I'm like, God.
That's one thing that's frustrating to me as a comic, too, is comedians that go for the low-hanging fruit frustrate me, but then the audience reacts to it. I'm like, I can't blame them.
I can't. I mean, but that's our choice. Like, being original, that's your choice. Would you trade with them? That's what I always have to break it down to. Would I trade? Even that guy I was talking about earlier, that's a huge, like, influencer, and he'll do a show, like, he'll just go, I'm going to do a stand-up show. It sells out. Dude, I got to work for a year to get a sellout show. I got to really grind at it, but my show is very different. And that's the path that we take. I wouldn't trade my life or career or even my following with that guy. Because it's like, I know what he built and what he does, and I know what I do. And it's going to take longer for me. It's going to take, but talent and persistence and hard work and all that stuff is the main thing that I see that has rewarded me. It hasn't always worked out. I've had a lot of really negative experiences in stand-up. But for 2 years, I can say that I've noticed like how working harder than people and how being more original than people has benefited me.
Yeah, there's been this song I've been listening to a lot by American Aquarium called The Luckier You Get. And the hook is, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Oh, yeah.
Well, before I have you like plug your stuff,
yeah,
I was reminded of just one other thing. It's like when you're working with all these different people in the audience, you're always going to, I think the main point of Birbiglia's Thank God for Jokes is that every joke is offensive to somebody.
True, yeah.
It's or at least at somebody's expense to some degree.
Yeah.
And I think it's, like I said earlier, it's a privilege to not that be the thing that offends you.
Sure.
But I do wonder, like, when you're walking that line, I think Dave Chappelle is a good example with the early part of his career. Like, he quit Chappelle's show because the show got too popular and it went beyond the audience that it was intended for. And so, like, when we're thinking about comedy and your like intended audience, you just have to let it go. You kind of just have to just be like, because you can't control who's going to watch your stuff.
Yeah.
You can't control.
Well, this is something I talked about last night with a friend, where it's like they bring friends to shows a lot, invite people from work. I never do that. I just, in my mind, I'm thinking I want people to see it when I want them to see it.
I had my friends come out the first time I ever went up to just give me support. That's the only time I've like really.
It's like, for me, it's like, what's honestly going to happen? Either if I bomb, they're going to see that, but they're not going to give me feedback that's going to help me because they haven't done stand up.
Yeah.
They're going to say something encouraging, probably. Great. That might be nice to hear, but it's not really going to benefit me as far as doing comedy further. Probably going to make me feel worse, honestly, knowing myself. And then, or I kill, and then they're laughing, and that's great. They got to see me kill, but that's not repeatable all the time. Then they come back to another show, and I bomb. Now they just think I'm inconsistent.
Or you can also never tell them those jokes again.
Yeah, then they see you again. It's like, oh, I killed these jokes. I got to use them again. Then they see the same shit. They're not going to.
Yeah.
Why would they come back?
Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
But my friend, it's like they love comedy. They want as many people to see them do comedy as they can. They just love it so much. But it's a very different mindset. I quit posting things on TikTok because my family was seeing it, like my mom, my grandmother, and I didn't want them seeing the comedy that was, because some of it was darker or edgier or whatever it was. I didn't want them to see it. But there is going to come to a point where ideally I don't have any control over that at all. I think it's just, for me, it's like controlling it while I can. And if it gets to a point where everybody knows about it, that's the thing about like a Dave Attell, where it's like my mom doesn't know who that is. I could theoretically be famous in comedy, and she would know I do it, but she would have no reason.
You'd buy her stuff.
Maybe.
Levi, it's been a pleasure, man. Where can people find you on social media, find your specials, all that stuff?
So my Instagram is Levi_comedy. I have all my shows and stuff I post on there. I have my YouTube linked to that too. That's where my 2 1-hour things are on there. And I've got a couple other sets and stuff. I just did a really cool 10-minute set at this charity event for pet adoption. Really fun. 10 minutes, but it's actually funny, clean comedy. I really like those jokes. And so check those things out. My shows, I have Tournament Topics, third Sunday of every month at the Globe in Athens. A really fun show. I stand by that show. I host it every month, and we have a lot of fun with that. It's really good. Then I have Alley Stage Tournament Topics on the 17th of this month. We do it third Thursday at Alley Stage out in Marietta. It's a bigger venue. It's a different feeling show out there because the venues are so different. But once again, it's not like anything you'll ever really see again. And then I have the Pot Roast is a new show that me and my friend Zach Hayes are running at Showtime Bowling. The one I was talking about earlier. It's really fun, unique concept. A lot of silliness involved in that. We do some games and stuff. The audience can really get involved in the show. It's very fun. But every show on that's going to be very unique, and it's a fresh concept. That's actually at a bowling alley, and it's a free show. It's completely free. If anybody wants to see that, last Tuesday of every month, I'm sorry, my friend Zach hosts it, and then I produce it, and we do all kinds of fun stuff. So check that out. I have a show that I'm doing with my friend Seven Holmes, a very funny comedian in Atlanta, Georgia. Absolutely hilarious. He's one of the guys that I cannot fathom how funny he is sometimes. Like, he's one of the few people that laugh, that he'll walk people, and then while they're walking out, they're dying laughing. Like, he will offend people at times, and then just win them back, and it's insane. And a lot of it's like riffs and stuff. But we're doing a show together called 7 Questions. This is gonna be an internet show, so we're working on that. But that'll be on my Instagram too. Cool.
That was my interview with Levi Crumley. I want to thank him again for coming on. I've linked his social media in the description, and I have a feeling he's somebody that I'll talk to again on the podcast. I go up to Athens quite a bit, and he was a lot of fun to talk to. This has been Overeducated and Underemployed. Next week, we've got a special treat. We've got Sloan Simpson from the Sloan Brothers. I'm going to do an episode about the role of historians. And then the week after that, we got Jay Gonzalez from the Drive-By Truckers, fresh off his project with Sloan Simpson. So you're not going to want to miss either one of those interviews, make sure you click that subscribe button. Make sure you check out Feddun.net. That's Feddun.net. If you have a suggestion for a guest or a question you'd like me to answer, email me at feddunxr@gmail.com. I want to thank Levi Crumley again. And as always, thanks to Lee Baines for inspiring the title of this podcast. You can find that lyric in his song Centerville. And I'm working on getting him on here as well soon. Thanks for tuning in. This is Overeducated and Underemployed, and I am Feddun.